When he first appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, Elvis Presley had yet to become the king of rock and roll. But Ed knew how to crown one. With 50 million viewers watching every week, The Ed Sullivan Show wasn't just a show. It was the epitome of what a variety show should be. And Ed was the ultimate Hollywood star maker. But behind that calm stare was a man who didn't tolerate being crossed. If he felt disrespected, he didn't argue. He erased, and over the years, the list grew. These are the 6 Golden Age stars he hated so much that he banned them for life. Chapter 6. Jackie Mason. Jackie was the kind of man who could turn a story about his rabbi into a room full of laughter. His humor wasn't flashy. It was personal, quick-witted, and built on years of watching people and knowing when to lean in. By 1964, his name was rising fast. He had just landed a 6-show deal with The Ed Sullivan Show for $45,000. For a working comic, that meant stability, status, and a real shot at lasting fame. Being invited on Ed's stage wasn't just a credit, it meant you'd arrived. But that October night, everything unraveled. The show was already under pressure. President Lyndon B. Johnson's last-minute emergency broadcast had thrown the evening into chaos. Ed was rattled. Segments had to be cut. Timelines collapsed. And Jackie, slotted last, was pushed onto a shrinking stage with seconds ticking. Still, he walked out cool as ever and started working the room like he always did. Confident, sharp, completely in his element. While the audience laughed, Ed Sullivan stood beside the camera, signaling frantically to wrap up. 2 fingers, then 1, then a sweeping hand wave. Jackie caught it all. And like any seasoned performer trying to hold the crowd, he turned the chaos into part of the act. He mimicked Ed's signals, joking, "First 2 fingers, then 1. You want a finger?" He waved his hand in that familiar, animated way New Yorkers use when they talk with their whole body. The audience cracked up. But Ed wasn't laughing. To him, it wasn't a joke. It was a direct insult. He thought Jackie had just flipped him off on live television. And in that moment, everything turned. As soon as the lights dimmed, Sullivan stormed backstage. His voice was low but firm, his expression like stone. He didn't want context. He didn't ask questions. Jackie tried to explain, calmly, sincerely. But it didn't matter. The decision was made. The contract was canceled. The pay was gone. And Jackie Mason was banned for life. Within days, the industry followed Ed's lead. Word spread fast, and not in Jackie's favor. Clubs backed out, bookings dried up, producers stopped returning calls. Whatever momentum he had was gone, replaced by silence and suspicion. He found himself back in cheap venues, performing to half-full rooms for barely enough to cover rent. It would take years for people to realize the truth. Footage eventually showed that Jackie never raised the middle finger. But by then, it was too late. The damage had settled. His reputation had been gutted over a moment of confusion, and Ed Sullivan never took it back. Chapter 5. Mae West. If Jackie Mason rattled Ed Sullivan with a misunderstood sign, Mae West did it without breaking a single rule, and we mean that's what made it worse. When she appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show in April 1959, she was already a legend. At 65, she wasn't trying to reclaim fame. She was fame. She didn't need to shock. All she had to do was show up and speak the way she always had. And that was more than enough to light a match under Ed's clean world. Sullivan's show was a clean operation. He sold it as a family hour, the kind you could watch with your kids and your in-laws without any worries. But inviting Mae, an icon of innuendo and slow-burn seduction, was asking for trouble. To protect the show, Ed and CBS combed through her script and scrubbed out anything they considered suggestive. On paper, her segment was tame. But they misunderstood something vital. Mae's power wasn't in the words. It was in the way she said them. That night, she walked out in a sequined gown, wrapped in fur, every movement deliberate. She didn't speak. She poured her words, each line stretched like silk across the room. Her voice didn't shout or scream. It hummed, it lingered, it suggested. Simple phrases twisted themselves into flirtation just by passing through her lips. She didn't break the rules. She bent the air around them. Ed stood in the wings, arms crossed and jaw set. The script had been followed word for word, but the message was entirely hers. He couldn't cut to a commercial. He couldn't scold her for saying anything wrong. But he watched the audience react, blushing, laughing nervously, and shifting in their seats. This wasn't entertainment. This was temptation, slipping past every censor's net. When the segment ended, there was no confrontation. Ed turned to his team and gave the verdict. She's not coming back. Not ever in my life. And May walked off smiling, untouched, unbothered, as if she'd never needed the show in the first place. Because in reality, she didn't. But Ed Sullivan would never take that risk again. She was fire. Chapter 4. Bo Diddley producer-director Andrew Solt, who owns the Ed Sullivan Archives, once said that Ed could make or break a career. And if you made it on the Ed Sullivan Show, chances were you could make it anywhere. But on November 20th, 1955, Bo Diddley didn't wait for Ed's approval. He took the spotlight and made himself. At the time, rock and roll was still fresh enough to scare people. The music was loud, the lyrics too loose, and the artists, especially the black ones, weren't what conservative television wanted in their living rooms. Sullivan knew rock had to be acknowledged, but he wanted it contained. Bo Diddley, with his sharp suits, rectangular guitar, and unfiltered sound, was already gaining momentum. Ed invited him on, but with a condition. He had to sing 16 Tons, a safe, slow ballad popularized by Tennessee Ernie Ford. Nothing wild or raw. Bo nodded, and then the lights went up. What happened next is still debated. A stagehand had written Bo Diddley on the cue card to introduce the act. When Bo stepped out and saw his name under the lights, he launched into Bo Diddley, his own electric driving anthem. Whether it was a genuine misunderstanding or a calculated move, only Bo knew. But from the moment the beat kicked in, the room changed. It wasn't a quiet ballad. It was thunder, gritty, pulsing, full of defiance. He didn't just perform, he owned the space, shifting, stomping, and strumming his guitar like it had a pulse. Ed stood frozen at the edge of the stage, watching the show spiral beyond his control. This wasn't what he'd approved. This wasn't tidy. It was loud. It was black. It was unfiltered. To him, it was rebellion dressed up as rhythm. When Bo came off stage, the applause still ringing behind him, he found Ed waiting in the hallway, red-faced, tight-jawed, and furious. There was no handshake. We mean, no congratulations. Just a finger pointed in Bo's face and a cold sentence. You'll never be back. Not while I'm alive. He wasn't. But that one moment, off-script, unforgettable, became a blueprint for artists who followed. That night, Bo Diddley didn't just perform. He broke the rules and left the door open behind him. Chapter 3. The Rolling Stones. In early 1967, America was on edge. The gap between generations wasn't just growing, it was breaking open. In living rooms across the country, parents clung to old values while their kids reached for something new. And on January 15th, the two sides collided on Ed Sullivan's stage. The Rolling Stones had already stirred trouble. Back in 1964, their first appearance was so chaotic that Ed had sworn off ever inviting them again. But by '67, their popularity was impossible to ignore. The kids wanted them back, and Ed, always calculating, gave in. But he wouldn't make the same mistake twice. If the Stones were coming back, they would play by his rules. The song was Let's Spend the Night Together, innocent by modern standards, but at the time, the lyric was a flashing red light. The phrase, spend the night, didn't suggest a sleepover. It suggested sex. And Ed Sullivan, who fancied himself the guardian of American decency, wasn't going to let that line go out unchallenged. He confronted Mick Jagger directly. The command was short, cold, and final. Change it. Let's spend some time together. Or go home. Jagger didn't fight. He didn't protest. He gave a small nod, agreed to the edit, and walked away. But what Ed failed to notice was that Jagger's compliance came with a smirk. The band took the stage in suits, polished, presentable, dressed for the part. At first glance, they looked like good boys. But when Jagger stepped up to the mic, his body told a different story. He swayed like he was bored. His lips curled like the words tasted wrong. And then came the chorus. He sang, "Let's spend some time together," exactly as requested. But right as the word time left his lips, Jagger rolled his eyes high into the rafters, mocking, slow, and unmistakably deliberate. Not once. Every time that lyric came, the eye roll followed, bigger and heavier. He didn't have to say a word. Everyone watching knew exactly what he meant. In the control room, Sullivan's team bristled, but technically there was nothing wrong. Jagger had followed the order to the letter. The lyric was clean. The suit was buttoned. No lines crossed. But that smirk, that look, it turned the edit into a joke. He sang the approved lyric with so much visible contempt that it embarrassed the very system trying to tame him. When the song ended, the Stones gave a polite bow and walked off. Ed clapped stiffly, his face unreadable. But whatever pride he'd felt for enforcing his rules had already wilted under the weight of Mick's perfect mockery. That night, the Stones didn't rebel by shouting. They did something sharper. They agreed, and then made the agreement absurd. And with that eye roll, Mick Jagger proved that you could follow every rule and still burn the house down from inside. What do you think about him? Let us know. Chapter 2. The Doors. As we said earlier, the Ed Sullivan Show had a little something for everyone, and Ed made sure of it. A tight ship, neatly run, clean enough for Sunday night with your grandmother in the room. But on September 17th, 1967, the show let in something it couldn't contain. The Doors weren't just a popular band, they were a cultural tremor. And Jim Morrison didn't move like someone grateful to be there. He moved like someone testing how far he could go. The problem started backstage. Producers told them to change one lyric. "Girl, we couldn't get much higher," to something less suggestive. "Better," they said. "Girl, we couldn't get much better." Morrison nodded. Calm, polite, no argument. "Sure," he said. It was a lie. The band took the stage, played the intro smoothly and steadily. Ed Sullivan watched from the wings, confident his instructions had been followed. The crowd clapped. The studio crew relaxed. Then Morrison stepped to the mic. He didn't blink. He didn't soften the line. He looked directly into the camera and sang it exactly as written. "Girl, we couldn't get much higher." Not once, but twice. His voice didn't shout. It didn't need to. It was clear, slow, and deliberate, with just enough edge to make sure no one missed the message. Ed Sullivan's jaw locked. The producers froze. The camera cut away fast, but the damage had already landed. Normally, Ed would shake the performers' hands and thank them as the credits rolled. Not this time. He didn't step out. He didn't say a word. The show jumped straight to a commercial. Backstage, it got worse. Ed didn't face the band. He didn't have to. His producer handled it, furious, loud, accusing them of breaking their word. "You'll never be back here again." That wasn't a warning. It was a sentence. But Morrison wasn't rattled. He lit a cigarette, looked at the man shouting in front of him, and said, "Hey man, we just did the Sullivan show." And he was right. They didn't come to ask permission. They came to leave a mark. And that one word, higher, was never about drugs. It was about refusing to bow. Chapter 1. Bob Dylan. Some artists chase the spotlight. Bob Dylan walked away from it without blinking. It was a quiet Sunday in May 1963 when the 21-year-old folk singer was scheduled to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show. He wasn't yet a household name. No flowing Nobel speeches, no weathered iconography. Just a kid in worn jeans and a voice that made people lean in. For a moment, it looked like history was ready to crown its next voice of a generation. Dylan had chosen to perform Talkin' John Birch Paranoid Blues, a pointed satire that mocked Cold War paranoia and the far-right John Birch Society. It wasn't loud or aggressive. It was clever, biting, and quietly fearless. Sullivan liked it. Rehearsal went smoothly. Ed gave his nod. The stage was set. But Sullivan wasn't the only one listening. Upstairs at CBS, the censors weren't smiling. Stowe Phelps, the network's head of standards, heard the lyrics and panicked. In 1963, jokes about anti-communist hysteria weren't just edgy. They were considered dangerous. Executives worried about lawsuits, angry letters, or worse, backlash from political allies. A team of suits marched to Dylan's dressing room and gave him the choice. Pick another song, something safer, something softer, maybe Blowing in the Wind. But the John Birch tune? Absolutely not. Dylan sat there, guitar in hand, listening. For any young performer, this was the moment to nod, smile, and compromise. Millions were watching. Careers had been built on smaller moments. Even Ed tried to keep him on, gently suggesting another track. But Dylan didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice or argue. He just stood up, packed his guitar, and said exactly what needed to be said. "If I can't sing my song, I'd rather not sing at all." He walked out, past the makeup lights, past the stage hands, past the camera crews. The doors behind the theater shut quietly. No fanfare, no dramatic exit, just a decision. Sullivan was left with a blank space in the lineup and a story he'd have to explain to his viewers. That night, millions tuned in expecting something new. They didn't know that the future of protest music had walked out the back door hours earlier. CBS filled the time slot. The show went on. But the impact of that refusal echoed far beyond a single episode. Dylan didn't return to network TV for years, but he didn't need to. That moment, the refusal to bend, defined him more than any single performance ever could. He walked away from a kingmaker, and in doing so became something far more lasting, an artist who answered only to the voice inside him. And that silence on live television said everything. If you found this video interesting, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you soon.